My son's bride insulted me in front of 200 wedding guests, and she did it with a smile polished enough to pass as kindness. She raised her glass and said, "And of course, let's thank Victor for trying so hard to fit in, even if he is a little low class for this crowd." The hall froze. Someone inhaled too sharply. The violinist dropped her bow. Lila didn't flinch. She let the silence land exactly where she wanted it. On me. My name is Victor Mercer. I've worked my whole life to stay steady, measured, dignified. People call that character. Some call it discipline. I never cared what they called it, as long as my son grew up knowing stability. But watching Noah's face fall, watching his eyes dart between me and the woman he planned to marry tomorrow, that hurt more than any insult she could have crafted. He looked at me like he wanted me to laugh it off, to make things easy, to keep the peace. He looked scared I wouldn't. Lila touched his arm, rested her head against him, and gave a laugh that didn't belong to her. "Relax, everyone," she said softly. "Just a little playfulness. Weddings make people sentimental." She said sentimental the way some people say contagious. Guests eased back into their seats, grateful to pretend nothing had happened. That's the thing about people. They'd rather swallow discomfort than look directly at the shadow casting it. 3 nights earlier, I'd overheard her whispering in my kitchen. A phone call. A different voice in her tone. A name I didn't recognize. Keen. Words like old paperwork, sealed, Noah won't question it, and once I'm a Mercer, none of this matters. That night, I didn't sleep. Not from anger. From dread. The next morning I checked one thing. A public clerk's database. Her past address didn't match her story. I checked something else, an education registry. Her school history had a year missing. Later that day, a colleague in Rhode Island mentioned a sealed motion attached to her previous name. Breadcrumbs. Not proof, but the kind that stick in a father's throat. And tonight, with the microphone still warm from her hand, I felt those breadcrumbs harden into something heavier. As the evening staggered on, she approached me. Not immediately, she was smarter than that. She drifted from guest to guest, offering practiced compliments and soft laughter, all while inching closer in a slow arc. When she finally reached me, her smile never touched her eyes. "Victor," she said lightly, "you didn't seem to enjoy my little joke. You didn't tell a joke. You'd be surprised what people find funny." She tilted her head. Sometimes the room laughs because it expects to. Sometimes because it's afraid not to. "I'm not laughing." "Yes," she whispered, "and that's what worries me." She stepped just close enough that her perfume brushed the space between us, sweet at first, then sharp underneath, like something masking something else. "You know," she murmured, "things tend to run more smoothly when everyone stays in their lane." "Is that meant for me?" "You're perceptive." She smiled like a blade. "It'll help, if you let it." "You insulted me to see how he'd react." She didn't deny it. Didn't blink. She only adjusted her posture, graceful as a dancer settling into position. "Noah is loyal," she said. "Loyalty shapes people, and whoever shapes it first usually shapes everything else." "Sounds like you've thought a lot about that." "I've thought about our future," she replied simply, "and about who fits into it." I stared at her long enough for the polite veneer to crack, just slightly. For a second, I saw the fear beneath the confidence. Not fear of me, but fear of being exposed. She didn't know what I'd already found. Not yet. Noah hurried toward us, cheeks flushed from dancing, hair a little out of place. He looked at her first, because he always looked at her first now. "Everything okay?" he asked, breathless. "Perfect," she said. "Your father and I were just clearing up a misunderstanding." Her fingers curled around his arm, like she was holding a leash made of affection. "Dad," Noah said, voice softer now. Almost pleading, I know she crossed a line. "I'll talk to her. Just don't do this tonight." His voice cracked on the last word. Not loudly, but enough for me to hear the boy I raised being slowly rewritten into someone easier to manage. My son didn't mean to choose her over me. But choices don't wait for intention. I wanted to tell him everything. About the phone call. About the name Keen. About the sealed document. About the missing school year. About the unease that had been growing in me like a bruise. But I saw the quiet panic in him. The desperation to keep peace. The fear of losing someone he loved. And I realized this wasn't the moment. Not yet. Not in front of her. Not while her hand rested on his arm like she already owned it. I nodded once. He exhaled in relief. A relief that cut deeper than any insult. I left the hall shortly after, the music swelling behind me in a forced celebration. Outside, the night air was cold enough to sting. Guests laughed inside, small, nervous laughs that told me the evening would live on in whispers. As I walked down the stone steps, I heard the soft tap of a champagne flute inside. Once, twice, 3 times, 3 small pings. Like a countdown. She thought she'd humiliated me. She thought she'd warned me off. But what she didn't know was that I had already started gathering proof. And tomorrow, the day she planned to take my son's name, I would find the rest, before she could bury hers for good. I didn't go home after the rehearsal dinner. I drove for hours with the radio off, letting the road hum beneath me. The moon hung low, pale and thin, like a fingernail scratch in the sky. I kept replaying her voice in my head, the way she said low class as if the words were perfume she enjoyed wearing. By the time I pulled into my driveway, dawn was brushing over the rooftops. I sat in the car without moving, the silence pressing against the windows. I'd learned something long ago. Silence isn't empty. It's a container. And whatever you fear most fills it first. Inside the house, everything felt wrong. The furniture, the lights, the framed photos. Everything familiar suddenly felt like an audience waiting for me to make a mistake. I couldn't sit. Couldn't lie down. The wall clock ticked too loudly, each second a little shove forward, pushing me towards something I wasn't ready to face. I found myself in my office, hands trembling slightly as I opened my laptop. A blank document glowed back at me. I typed a single line. She wanted everyone to see she owns the room. My fingers stilled. There was a weight in my chest that wouldn't shift. It wasn't anger. It was heartbreak, the kind that comes from watching someone you love slip into the hands of someone who knows exactly how to reshape him. I pressed my palms to my face, breathing deeply. I had lost my wife Elise to fate. I couldn't lose Noah to a lie. I opened the file I'd started days earlier, the night I overheard Lila whispering in my kitchen. The audio memory came back so sharply I had to grip the desk to steady myself. Her voice, hushed but firm, talking about old paperwork, sealed documents, how once I become Lila Mercer, everything resets. I hadn't known what she meant then, but now I did, piece by piece. The first breadcrumb had appeared when I searched her name the morning after. A relocation note time-stamped 3 years ago. No details, just a transfer order and a privacy seal. That alone meant something had gone badly wrong. The second breadcrumb came when I checked her schooling. 1 year vanished entirely. Not deferred, not withdrawn, just erased. And the third breadcrumb came from a colleague who quietly sent me a line from a sealed motion. Petitioner relocation approved. No other words. I closed the laptop. The clues were scattered like glass shards. I needed more. At 7:30 a.m., I was waiting outside the county clerk's building. The fluorescent lights buzzed softly inside, flickering just slightly, the way they do in places that see more secrets than people realize. When the doors unlocked, Ellen Pierce looked up from her desk and froze. "Victor," she said cautiously, "you look like you haven't slept." "I haven't," I admitted. She hesitated, then waved me to her counter. "What do you need?" "Birth records. Name changes." "Whose?" I didn't answer right away. She didn't push. She typed slowly, and the way her fingers paused mid-keystroke made my stomach tighten. The silence in the office grew heavy, like the air before a storm. "Victor," she murmured, "this file is sealed with an exemption." "What kind?" "The kind used when someone needs to disappear quietly." Disappearing quietly. That phrase settled into me like a cold hand around my spine. "Can you see anything?" I asked. "Just the date." She turned the screen slightly. 3 years ago. The same year the school records vanished. The same year of the sealed motion. I thanked her and stepped back outside. The sun was too bright for what I felt. Every clue I uncovered felt like another second dropping off the clock. I drove to the hospital next, not for work, but for the old rotation logs from St. Enoch's nursing program. The corridors echoed faintly as I walked, each step sounding louder than it should. The administrative storage room was lit by one flickering bulb, giving the boxes a ghostly shimmer. A young employee named Hannah was sorting folders. "Morning, Mr. Mercer. You're early. I need to check a student record," I said. "Which department?" "Rehab rotation." She nodded and pointed to a half-open box. "Everything's in here." I knelt, sifted through files until her name appeared. Not Hart. Keen. My pulse thudded once hard. The folder was thin, too thin. But inside, A supervisor's note stood out. The ink was smudged, but still legible under the harsh overhead bulb. Temporary access lockout. Pending review. A heartbeat of silence passed. A lockout wasn't an accusation. It was a warning sign. And warning signs don't usually travel alone. I placed the file back carefully, aware that my hands were shaking. The air in that little room felt colder than the rest of the hospital. By late morning, I had pieced together enough to know that whatever she was running from, she believed marrying my son would bury it. At 10:46 a.m., my phone buzzed. Noah, Dad, can you stop by today? Lila wants to finish seating charts. Seating charts. The world burning behind the curtain, and she wanted to arrange chairs. I replied that I was coming. His apartment was above a coffee shop, a modest place, warm and messy in ways Elise would have loved. When I climbed the stairs, the wood creaked under my shoes, each groan sounding like a warning. Noah opened the door before I knocked. His eyes were tired, rimmed with sleeplessness. He looked like the boy who used to run to me after thunderstorms rattled his windows. You okay? He asked. I've been better. He let me in. The apartment smelled like lavender and something metallic, cleaner, maybe, or something else. About last night, he began, voice tight. She didn't mean it the way it sounded. She meant every word. I said gently. He winced. A tiny, fragile wince that fractured something in me. Dad? He whispered. Please, not today. His voice cracked on the last word. For a moment, I saw the little boy he used to be, the one who climbed into my lap after nightmares and asked, Is everything still safe? Now he asked with his eyes instead of words. And I didn't know how to answer anymore. I'm not here to fight, I told him. I'm here because something feels wrong. She's nervous, he insisted. Weddings are stressful. People say stupid things. I stared at him. Has she ever told you about her past? She told me what matters. Important. That same word again. What matters to her? I said. Or what matters to you? He looked away. His jaw trembled, barely noticeable. If you're asking me to doubt her, I'm asking you to be open, I cut in softly. Just open. He swallowed hard. Dad, I love her. I know, I whispered. That's what scares me. He blinked rapidly. Why? Because love makes people ignore the things they shouldn't. A silence settled between us, thick, uneasy, necessary. I wanted to tell him everything. About the sealed record, the disappearance, the lockout, her other name. But truth is fragile. If given too early, it shatters in the wrong direction. I'm on your side, I said. Even if you can't see that right now. He lowered his head. I know, he whispered. I left before Lila came home. On the stairs, the same steps creaked beneath me, but this time the sound made my heart tighten. It reminded me of how quickly things crumble. Outside, the barista from downstairs stepped out with a tray of cups. She smiled. You're Noah's dad, right? Big day tomorrow. Big day, I repeated. His fiancée used to come in all the time last year, she said casually. Always with that old folder. Thick thing, brown edges. Looked like it had been opened 1,000 times. An ache pulsed behind my ribs. What kind of folder? I asked. Oh, you know, the kind you carry when you're trying to fix something from before. She lowered her voice. She always looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in weeks. But she worked through whatever was in that folder every morning, rebuilding her life. Paperwork. A folder worn from too many hands. And then she went quiet. Until the ring. The barista waved goodbye and slipped inside. I stood there on the sidewalk, the summer heat wrapping around me like a warning. The world went on. Cars passing, kids laughing, wind chimes ringing from across the street. But inside me, a clock was ticking louder and louder. 3 soft pings. The champagne glass from last night. The countdown. And now I knew something else. Whatever was hunting her, whatever she'd been hiding, whatever made her leave a different life behind, it hadn't stopped. And the wedding wasn't going to bury her past. It was going to drag it straight through my front door. I didn't turn on any lights when I got home that night. Darkness felt safer, as if revealing too much of the house might expose something brittle inside me. The walls held their breath with me. Every sound, the hum of the refrigerator, the settling pop of the floorboards, seemed louder, more intrusive, like the house was trying to draw my attention to a threat I couldn't see yet. Sleep didn't come. My thoughts kept looping, circling, tightening like a rope. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lila's face when she stepped away from that microphone. Calm, almost serene, like someone dropping a match and admiring the flame. But underneath it, there was something else. Something twitching behind her eyes. Something afraid. Fear makes people unpredictable. Fear leads to mistakes. Fear is the one truth people can't hide behind charm. When the sky began to lighten, I left the house. Staying inside made the silence ring too loudly. I drove with no plan, letting the roads decide for me. My hands tightened on the wheel each time I pictured Noah standing at that altar tomorrow, smiling at a woman who was unraveling inch by inch. The old Foster Resource Center appeared in my windshield without me realizing I'd driven there. A forgotten place at the edge of town, almost swallowed by trees. The windows were dusty, the door warped with weather and time. A building that looked like it remembered things it wished it didn't. I stepped out. The air felt heavy. Not warm, heavy. Like walking through water. "You looking for someone?" The voice came from the side entrance. An older woman, short, shoulders squared from years of dealing with strangers' crises. Her county badge was faded, peeling at the edges. "I'm trying to understand a sealed record," I said. "Someone connected to a case here." She studied me with eyes that seemed to search for something behind my face. "Whose?" "Lila Keene." For a heartbeat, her expression didn't change. Then her jaw tensed. "I remember that name," she murmured. Nothing good ever comes from a stranger remembering someone without smiling. "I can't tell you anything," she continued. "Not legally. I'm not asking for details. I just need to know if my son is in danger." She looked down at the cracked pavement between us. When she spoke again, her voice was lower, tight, as if she was speaking to the ground instead of me. "Some files are sealed because they're dangerous," she said. "Not to protect them, to protect everyone else." The words crawled under my skin. Before I could respond, a door from inside banged open. She jerked her head toward it, instinctively, protectively, and then stepped back inside, closing the door between us with a finality that felt like a warning shot. I stood alone in the parking lot. The sun was higher now, but nothing felt warm. I rubbed my hands together, trying to shake off the chill. My phone buzzed. Not Noah. Not anyone I knew. A private number. When I answered, there was nothing on the other end but breathing. Shaky, shallow, uneven. The kind of breathing you hear in hospital ERs from people trying not to let their panic take over. "Hello," I said. No reply. Just breath. Then the line went dead. I stared at the phone, pulse spiking, and told myself it could be nothing. But the truth sat differently in my chest. I drove toward town. The streets were too quiet, too soft. The world kept moving, unaware that mine was twisting tighter by the hour. When I turned onto Oak Ridge Road, I spotted her car. Lila stood outside a pharmacy, clutching a small white paper bag in both hands like it might slip away if she loosened her grip. She didn't look polished. She looked hunted. Her shoulders were rigid. Her jaw clenched so tightly I could see the tension, even from the car. A gust of wind caught the edge of the bag and revealed something inside. A sharp orange pill bottle with a handwritten label, black marker scrawled over old text. She shoved the bottle deeper into the bag and hurried to her car. When she got in, something slid off the passenger seat, a small, folded document with a faded red stamp. She snatched it quickly, like it was a wound she didn't want anyone to see. She sat there gripping the steering wheel. Her breathing was heavy, visible in the rise and fall of her shoulders. Then she hit the dashboard once, hard, before reversing out too quickly and nearly hitting a passing cyclist. Whatever she was holding inside that bag, it wasn't medication. It was fear. I followed her at a distance, not close enough to alert her, but close enough to know exactly where she was heading. The neighborhood she drove into wasn't the kind you visit unless you have a reason. Paint peeling from window frames, rusted mailboxes, yards littered with forgotten toys. A place where people lived in the spaces between disasters, not after them. She parked in front of a duplex with a bent satellite dish. And just sat there, not moving, not checking her reflection, not rehearsing a lie. She was just still, stillness born of dread. A man opened the door before she even knocked. Thin, hollow-faced, dark circles under his eyes. His hands shook slightly. A hospital band peeked out from under his sleeve. When he saw her, something desperate flared across his face. They spoke in low, sharp whispers. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see the panic. The man's mouth trembling. Lila's fingers tightening around the white bag. His bare foot tapping the wooden step rapidly, as if he needed to move but didn't know where to go. Then he grabbed her arm. She froze. He said something that made her eyes widen. She shoved him away and stormed inside the duplex. I waited. Every second stretched like wire pulled too tight. 5 minutes. 10. A full 15. When she came out, she clutched a small cardboard box to her chest. The box was old, edges rounded with time. A faded hospital belongings sticker stuck crookedly on one corner. Whatever was inside wasn't paperwork. It was history. A history someone desperately wanted buried. The man followed her out, reaching toward her, not in anger, but in a pleading way, like someone trying to stop a wound from reopening. She said something that made him flinch. Then she left without looking back. Once she drove off, I approached the steps. The man stood there with a cigarette he couldn't light because of his trembling hands. His eyes were bloodshot. "You her father?" he asked without looking at me. "No," I said quietly. "I'm her fiancé's father." His face collapsed. A tremor ran through him, not entirely from fear. "Oh God," he whispered. "You need to go? You need to stay out of this." "What's in that box?" I asked. He dragged a shaking hand through his hair. "I told her to leave it alone. I told her the past doesn't go away because you pretend it doesn't exist." "What past?" I pressed gently. He looked at the street, not at me. "She's carrying ghosts she shouldn't be carrying." "Is my son in danger?" He closed his eyes. "I don't know, but I know she's scared enough to burn down anything that tries to expose her." The words took the air out of me. I stepped back, leaving him trembling on the porch. As I reached my car, he called after me, not loud, but desperate. "She's not a monster," he said. "She just doesn't know how to stop everything that's chasing her." That didn't comfort me, not even close. I drove straight home. The sky had turned a dull, washed-out blue. Clouds hung low like a weight. Inside my house, the air felt too thin to breathe. I tried to drink water. It tasted like metal. My phone buzzed. "Noah, Dad, can you please come by later?" Lila's shaking. She keeps saying she's fine, but she won't stop crying. She thinks I'm going to leave if she tells me something. I don't know what to do. Please come. The message hit harder than anything I'd found. Fear, confusion, love, every emotion bleeding through the words. I typed back that I was coming soon, but I stayed sitting at the table long after typing. My hands shook. I had seen fear in strangers, in patients, in grieving families, but I had never seen fear touching my own son like this. Not like this. Before leaving, I opened my laptop and added a single line. "The past is catching up. Not just to her. To us." I closed it and headed toward the door. The wind outside had picked up, rattling the loose gutter along the side of the house. As I stepped out, a sharp tapping sound drifted from somewhere down the street. 3 taps. A pause. Then 3 more. Not random. Not accidental. Measured. Deliberate. Like someone, or something, marking time. Marking how long I had left before everything she'd been hiding finally arrived. And tomorrow, Noah planned to marry her. Everything inside me tightened as I drove toward him. The countdown wasn't approaching. It had already begun. The hallway reeked of burnt toast and old coffee, and the flickering bulb overhead made the shadows twitch like they were listening. Noah opened the door before I even touched it. He looked wrecked, barefoot, pale, a sheen of sweat across his forehead. "Dad," he whispered, voice frayed at the edges. She locked herself in the bathroom. "She won't talk to me." A soft, uneven sound carried down the hallway. Someone trying not to cry loud enough to be heard. The apartment was dark, the curtains drawn halfway, the air thick like they'd been arguing for hours. On the kitchen tile, a shattered glass lay in pieces, one shard trembling every time Noah shifted his weight. The white pharmacy bag sat crumpled near the hallway, ripped open. The orange pill bottle inside had a single initial smudged beneath the black marker, K. Only the K remained visible. On the floor beside it, the folded document peeked just enough to reveal a faded embossed seal, barely there, but unmistakably official. My stomach tightened. I stepped toward the bathroom. Noah hovered behind me like someone afraid the floor would give way. I rapped softly on the door. "Lila." Silence. Not empty silence, the held breath kind. Then a faint clatter from inside. Noah flinched. "Don't break it down," I murmured when he surged forward. "Give her a moment." He pressed both hands to his face, exhaling shakily. "Lila," I said again, keeping my voice low, steady. "You're not alone. Just open the door." A small sob leaked through the crack under the door. "Then, I ruined everything." Her voice sounded thin, crushed, stripped raw. You didn't ruin anything, Noah said. Too fast, too desperate. Just open up. Please. I'm right here. Another frantic inhale. Then, the lock clicked. The door opened just an inch at first. Enough for her eyes to appear. Red, swollen, terrified. Mascara streaked down her cheeks like bruises someone forgot to hide. When she stepped out fully, her hands were still shaking, fingers tangled in her hair. She looked at Noah first. Never at me. I thought Westbridge would be quiet, she whispered. I thought, if I kept moving, the past would forget I existed. It wasn't on the nose anymore. It was confession through exhaustion. Noah reached for her, but she backed away half a step, gripping the folded paper like it was holding her upright. He froze mid-reach, arms suspended in the air, and his fingers trembled, just slightly, like a child trying to carry something too fragile. I felt something tear inside my chest. What happened today? He asked gently. Her lip quivered. I want to see someone. Someone I never wanted to see again. She swallowed hard. He told me the same thing he told me 3 years ago, that the file would surface eventually. That running doesn't erase anything. It just postpones the collapse. The words shook on her next exhale. I thought I could keep Noah out of it, she whispered, voice fraying. I thought if I kept everything buried deep enough, if I changed enough, if I pretended hard enough. Her stare drifted toward the pill bottle, the single initial K peeking beneath the marker. Noah reached out again, gently this time. Whatever this is, whatever you're scared of, we can handle it together. Her eyes flickered with a kind of hope that looked painful. Then her gaze snapped to the folded document. The embossed seal caught the light, faint but visible. She clutched it to her chest like she feared gravity would rip it away. No, she breathed. If you read this, you won't look at me the same. I'm looking at you right now, he said, voice cracking. And you're shaking. That's all I see. His hands shook too, trying to hold her, hold the moment, hold himself. For a second, he looked 8 years old again, asking me to check the closet for monsters. Lila's chin wobbled. I didn't want you marrying someone you don't truly know. Then let me know you, he whispered. She opened the document halfway. Not enough to reveal anything. Enough to steal the air from the room. Before Noah could take it, her phone lit up. A string of zeros. Endless. Unnatural. Noah stared. Who was that? Lila didn't blink. Her skin went gray, like all the blood drained at once. The phone kept ringing. A faint hiss of static leaked through the speaker. Soft, almost like breathing filtered through distance. She answered with a trembling thumb. She didn't speak. The static on the other end deepened, like someone adjusting their breath to match hers. Then, a single whisper, too faint for us to hear, but loud enough to freeze her in place. Her fingers tightened around the phone until the plastic creaked. I told you never to call me again, she whispered. A digital click swallowed the rest. Then dead silence. When she lowered the phone, her knees buckled. Noah caught her with both arms. Lila, hey, look at me, breathe. His voice spiraled between panic and tenderness. Just breathe. Her shoulders shook violently. They found it, she choked out. They found the file. I thought I still had time. I thought tomorrow would be safe. I stepped closer. What file? She looked at me then, the first real look she ever gave me. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't hateful. It wasn't even manipulative. It was the look of someone cornered by a truth she can't outrun, a truth dragging its nails across her life. This doesn't stop, she murmured, voice breaking. It advances. A cold shiver slid up my spine. Noah held her tighter, fear blooming across his face. Lila, what file? Tell me what's happening. She pressed her forehead into his shoulder and sobbed harder. I didn't want you in the blast radius, she whispered. I didn't want anyone touched by this. It's mine. It was supposed to stay mine. Something thudded against the window. A soft, crisp sound. 3 taps. Not outside this time. The sound vibrated through the dishes in the sink, and the smallest shard of broken glass on the kitchen tile trembled. Noah whipped his head toward the window. I moved faster, stepping between them and the glass. The alley outside was empty. Still. Too still. The taps echoed again, faint, fading, like someone marking seconds. Somewhere deeper in the building, a door latch clicked softly, settling into place. Not a slam. Not a knock. A quiet, decisive shift. Like a held breath, choosing a side. Tomorrow was supposed to be the wedding. Now it felt like the deadline. We didn't turn on the lights. None of us wanted to see the room too clearly. The dim lamp in the corner flickered every few seconds, giving the apartment the feeling of a heartbeat. Weak, shallow, unpredictable. Lila sat on the couch with her knees pulled to her chest, blanket wrapped around her shoulders like armor she didn't trust. Noah paced in tight, agitated loops across the living room rug, rubbing the back of his neck until the skin reddened. The microwave clock blinked 3:07 a.m. The air felt too thick to breathe normally, as if fear had weight, and we were all sitting beneath it. Noah stopped pacing abruptly. "I can't just stand here," he said, voice cracking. "I can't watch her fall apart and pretend it doesn't terrify me." Lila didn't look at him, or at me. She stared at her own hands like they were capable of betraying her. "You weren't meant to be part of this," she murmured. "I wanted to keep you far from it." Her voice was quiet, but the words hit like a shove. Noah knelt in front of her. "Lila, tell me what I'm being kept from." She shook her head, not violently, slowly, the kind of shake that meant she was afraid of her own truth. "Everything I touch," she whispered, "breaks." He reached for her hand. She let him hold it, barely. Her other hand clutched the folded document on the coffee table. The embossed seal caught the flickering lamplight each time it blinked. The faint, inked line visible at the top was just legible enough to read a single phrase. Recommendation: temporary removal from clinical duties. Not a crime, not an accusation, but a shadow. Noah stared at that one line like it was a foreign language. "What does that mean?" he asked softly. Lila inhaled sharply, then spoke with the precision of someone recalling trauma, not information. "It means they didn't trust me," she said. "Or they pretended not to. Or they made sure it looked like they shouldn't." Her voice thinned. "Take your pick." I stepped closer. "Why would they recommend that?" Lila's throat bobbed. She looked suddenly younger. Smaller. "I failed an evaluation," she admitted. "A behavioral one." Noah blinked. "Behavioral? Like psychological?" She nodded once, eyes clouded. My stomach tightened. Not because of what it meant, but because of what she clearly believed it meant. "It wasn't fair," she whispered. "It wasn't even accurate. But once that note goes in your file, everyone starts seeing you through it." Her fingers trembled. "You become the risk, not the situation." Noah sat back on his heels, breath catching, just for a moment. A flash of recoil. A crack in his expression. Not rejection, just truth colliding with hope. She saw it. She flinched. "I knew it," she whispered. "I knew you'd look at me differently." "No," he said quickly, but his voice trembled. "I'm just trying to understand." Lila looked like she wanted to shrink into the blanket and disappear. I exhaled slowly. What triggered the evaluation? She closed her eyes, jaw tightening. "I had a patient," she said. "A young one. Panicked. Confused. And someone claimed I escalated the situation. That I wasn't stable enough to handle it." She opened her eyes. "That's not what happened." The air in the room pulsed, tension thickening. Noah swallowed hard. "So you left the job?" "I left the city," she whispered. "I left everything. I didn't want the label following me. I didn't want anyone else to see me through that report." A tear fell, absorbed into the blanket. "That's the mistake you're so afraid of?" Noah asked. "A report." Her voice cracked. "Reports become reputations. Reputations become cages." His face softened. His fear didn't vanish, but it shifted, becoming something like sorrow. "I'm not leaving you," he said quietly. But this time, he said it like a man choosing something painful, not something easy. He sat beside her, pulling her into his arms. She leaned into him like someone bracing against a wind only she could feel. The lamp flickered again. Then, a faint sound in the hallway. Not footsteps. Too slow. Not voices. Too deliberate. A soft drag across the floorboards. A breath-like shift in the air between walls. Noah stiffened. He heard it too. "Did you?" he whispered. "Yes," I said. A shadow slipped under the door seam for a moment. Thin, gliding, shaped wrong for the building's usual creaks. Then it disappeared. Lila's breathing spiraled faster. "He's here," she whispered. He must be close." He left the clearing. I didn't want to believe it. "Who?" Noah demanded. She didn't answer. She looked physically sick at the thought. I walked to the door as quietly as possible, listening. The hallway lights buzzed faintly, then flickered. First one, then another. A soft electrical hum pulsed through the building like it had a nervous system. Something brushed the door from the outside. A fingertip. Light. Testing the boundary. Noah stood up fast. "Dad." I motioned for silence. The touch vanished. Then nothing. Complete stillness. Until a neighbor's door down the hall opened halfway. A sliver of light. A confused, sleepy voice. Hello? Who's out here? Their voice froze mid-sentence. A soft inhale from further down the corridor. Too close. Too controlled. The neighbor's door shut again, softly, but with urgency. Lila whimpered from the couch. This is how he does it, she whispered. He doesn't show himself. He waits. He listens. Noah ran a shaky hand through his hair. Who the hell is he? The one who filed the complaint, she finally whispered. The one who said I wasn't fit to work. The one who made sure the report stuck. Her voice lowered. The one I thought I left behind. Noah stared at her, confusion and fear wrestling across his face. Why would he be here? Why would he follow you? Lila wrapped her arms tighter around herself. Because I challenged his version of the truth. I didn't accept the report. I pushed back. I wasn't supposed to. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He warned me what would happen if I didn't stay quiet. My pulse hammered. And the hospital curing? I asked softly. She closed her eyes. He wore it every day? Even when he didn't need to. He said it reminded him that everyone answers to someone. Her voice choked. I left my city to get away from that sound, the jingle of those keys. And now he's here. Noah's face drained of color. Then, at 4:12 a.m., another sound came from outside the window. A thud. Small. Deliberate. I walked to the glass. A clear plastic envelope lay beneath the security light. Inside, a flash drive. Red sticker. Black writing. For the groom. Noah's breath hitched like he'd swallowed ice. Lila shook her head violently. Don't touch it. Don't bring it inside. Her voice sliced through the room. That's what he does. He doesn't confront. He injects. Noah whispered. Dad, what do we do? Before I could answer, the hallway light outside our door flickered again. Then died. Total darkness on the other side of the door. A long breath, soft, almost curious, slid under the crack. Not ours. Not hers. Not his. Someone was standing right outside. Listening. Waiting. The flash drive glowed faintly from the alley. Morning crawled closer. The wedding crawled closer. And the past Lila had been trying to bury had just taken its first step over the threshold. The air in the apartment didn't feel like fear anymore. It felt like a countdown. The hallway outside our apartment was too quiet. Quiet in a way that felt curated, like someone had turned the building into a stage and was waiting for us to walk into the light. The dead ceiling bulb over our door didn't help. It flickered once as if deciding whether to work, then surrendered and stayed dark. Inside, the air felt heavy with wet fear. Lila sat on the couch with her back hunched, fingers digging into the blanket around her. Noah stood in the middle of the room, hands pressed to the top of his head like he was trying to hold in thoughts that were leaking through his skull. The clear envelope from the alley lay on the table. I didn't like how much of the room's attention it commanded. We're not opening that, Lila said, voice thin. We have to, Noah said. If we don't open it, he'll use it at noon. He runs on fear, she whispered. Don't feed him. I picked up the flash drive, the red sticker almost smug, for the groom. Cheap plastic, weightless, but somehow heavier than the apartment itself. We'll open it, I said. But safely. Air-gapped. Battery only. Radio's disabled. Camera taped. Noah paced once, then stopped. Do we really have to? Yes. I cut in, trimming the repetition. We do. Before plugging it in, I retrieved the envelope from the hallway, sliding my arm through the chained door, sleeve over my fingers. No bare prints. No mistakes. Something brushed fabric on the other side. Light, deliberate. I didn't look. I grabbed the envelope, shut the door, and the darkness behind it swallowed itself. The sound of the lock sliding home echoed longer than it should have. I set my old laptop on the table. No wireless cards. No Bluetooth. No memory of anything modern. Just dust and silence. I taped over the camera, turned off every radio switch, and opened the lid. Lila wrapped the blanket tighter. Noah stepped closer, jaw clenched, trying not to shake. I inserted the drive. The machine clicked awake. 4 files appeared. 1. Incident.mp4. 2. Eval.pdf. 3. Statements.zip. 4. Tomorrow.mov. The coil inside the old laptop gave a faint whine as it spun. Thin, metallic, nervous. I opened incident.mp4. A grainy security feed filled the screen. Date stamp from Harbor Providence. A small padded room. A patient, young, shaking, hands pressed to his temples like they were trying to keep something inside. Lila entered the frame. Hair tied back, body angled low and soft. She crouched. Spoke. Her mouth made shapes anyone who had worked in a facility recognized. Steady. You're safe. Look at me. The young man rocked violently, knocking the bolted chair sideways. Lila stepped back, palms out. This was good care. Calm care. Then the door opened. A man stepped inside the threshold. No badge. No ID. Just hospital clogs, a neutral jacket, and a weight of presence that the camera disliked. He didn't intervene. Didn't speak. He just observed. The keys at his belt were visible. Heavy stainless loops that caught the fluorescence with a cold wink. Grant Sable. He stood there like the room owed him something. The patient lurched again. 2 techs rushed in. Too fast, too forceful. The scene exploded. Arms, restraints, panic. Lila shouted something, silent, but her mouth unmistakably shaped stop. Then, a glitch. A tearing of frames across the screen. The timecode stuttered. 3:13 ghosts, smears sideways, then snaps to 3:16. The hiss of the HVAC doubled for a moment, like the sound had been stretched. Then the video ended. Noah stared in stunned silence. They cut the tape. They did more than cut it, I said. They stitched a story. Lila wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. I made a call I'd take back, she whispered. Not there. Not then. But in the aftermath. I challenged the report. And he made it policy. Noah looked at her, and for the first time that night, there was a flicker of respect amid the fear, respect for accountability. Next, he said. I opened eval.pdf. A scanned behavioral evaluation filled the screen. Too neat. Too polished. But missing the things that matter. No clinician ID, I pointed out. No NPI. No DEA number. No psychologist or psychiatrist signature. Risk signed off in lieu of a credentialed evaluator. Noah blinked. So it's fake. It's operational, I corrected. Not clinical. Fraud wearing a hospital logo. Lila closed her eyes like she remembered every word exactly as written. Open the statements, Noah whispered. Inside statements.zip, 3 documents. Aren't texts. Conflicting narratives. One saying she escalated. One saying she de-escalated. The text statement. It felt like the room wanted to make someone the reason. I clicked the last file, tomorrow.mov. Black screen at first. Then a camera view of Westbridge Hall. Empty chairs. Empty aisle. Timestamp. Tomorrow morning. The HVAC fluttered over the recording. Heavy, oppressive, like someone breathing directly on the microphone. Another cut, to the side entrance. Another, to the alley. Then, our hallway. Our door. A shaky camera positioned on the carpet, low, angled upward. It captured the thin strip of light beneath our door. The grain jumped. The mic overamplified something, soft breathing. Not ours. A hospital clog stepped into frame. The camera moved closer. Closer. Until the lens nearly kissed the gap between our floor and the door. Someone on the other side exhaled. Then the frame ended abruptly, like a mouth snapping shut. When I yanked the drive out, the laptop gave a coil whine die-off, like a tiny engine gasping to sleep. Noah stepped back, eyes wide, fighting the urge to retreat further. What does he want from us? He wants the narrative, I said. He authored the last one. What do we do? He whispered. Then we choose a place he can't stage, Noah said suddenly, steady, clear. A spine. A partner. Not a passenger. Lila let out a shuddering breath. There's a box. In my trunk. Providence stuff. I kept it because somewhere in me didn't believe I was crazy. What's in it? Noah asked. Copies, she whispered. Old schedules. An intake note. My badge slip. I kept the desk phone CDR printout. The one with the outbound call. What time? I asked. 2:58, she said. To Sable. Before the incident. A smoking gun. Outside, the hallway motion light flickered. Then the stairwell door, 3 units down, eased open. And settled again. Not alone. That was all we needed. We're moving, I said. How? Noah asked. Print, notarize, double custody, off-site, I said. He can't erase paper held by strangers. Lila grabbed her coat. Noah grabbed the box key. I grabbed the folder. We opened the apartment door. The hallway air was cold as a morgue drawer. At the far end, under the working light, a man stood. Clogs. Jacket. Keys. Stillness like a mathematical proof. Grant Sable. He didn't smile. Didn't blink. He just absorbed us with his face. No incidents today, he said. Clinical, weaponized. The same word from the file. From the video. Noah stepped in front of Lila. I stepped beside him. Sable tilted his head a few degrees, as if noting the formation. You've seen what you needed to see, he said lightly. Make the useful choice. Noah's jaw flexed. We are. Sable's eyes lowered to the folder in my hand, as if reading through it. Noon, he said simply, and walked past us. No rush, no fear, keys brushing his thigh in soft, deliberate chimes. When he disappeared into the stairwell, the building exhaled. Noah turned to me. We're really doing this? Yes, I said. Because by noon, truth needs witnesses. And we headed into the cold morning to find some. The sky was turning from black to pewter as we pulled into the lot, the morning breathing cold against the windshield. Lila's hands trembled in her lap. Noah kept checking the rearview mirror like he expected Sable's face to bloom out of the fog. He's not behind us, I said. Noah exhaled through his nose. He doesn't need to be. We parked behind the print and ship center, the only place open this early besides hospitals and bad diners. The windows were streaked with condensation. Inside, a single night clerk sat slumped over a counter, an untouched tea steaming beside him. He barely looked up when we entered. Copies or packing? Notarized copies, I said. That woke him enough to straighten his glasses. Notary's on call. She'll be here at 6. We had 10 minutes. Enough or not enough, depending on the kind of truth you were trying to save. We set the box on the workstation. The cardboard felt colder than the air. Lila peeled the lid back. Inside were the pieces of her past she'd kept hidden from everyone, including herself. Intake notes. Shift schedules. Her old badge slip. The desk phone CDR printout with the 2:58 call to Sable highlighted in yellow. Noah lifted it, reading the timestamp as if it were a confession. This is the cut he made, he murmured. We're building a record he can't cut, I said. Start copying. The machine hummed to life. Warm sheets spilled into the tray one after the other, tiny ghosts of a truth that finally had shape. We made 3 sets, then 3 more. The motion sensor at the front of the shop blinked. The clerk glanced up. Someone coming? But no one opened the door. The sensor blinked again. Then a whisper against the glass. Fabric, maybe a sleeve shifting. A brief fog of breath bloomed on the pane and vanished before the clerk noticed. Lila's spine went rigid. We're not alone, she whispered. We finished the print run. The notary walked in precisely at 6, travel mug in hand, coat half zipped. State commissioned on-call notary, she said, yawning. Who's signing? We laid out the documents. She didn't ask personal questions. She just stamped, initialed, and pressed her seal like someone hammering stakes into the ground. As her seal landed on the last page, the motion sensor flicked again. This time the clerk shivered. Wind must be weird today. We didn't correct him. We left through the back exit. The parking lot was quiet, but too much of the quiet felt like it had weight. Noah unlocked the car with shaking fingers. Next stop, the courthouse. The building's stone steps were slick with frost. Noah slid the envelope into the intake slot, warm paper leaving cold hands. The metal flap clapped shut behind it with a satisfying inevitability. The clock owned the story now, I said. Noah swallowed. Good. We drove across town. Our next stop was the old mill by the river. The reporter, Whitaker. Her office was on the 2nd floor, lights already on. She buzzed us in before we finished climbing the stairs. You're early, she said, eyes red from lack of sleep, but sharp enough to cut steel. Show me. Noah handed her the copies. Whitaker flipped the first pages like she was grading an exam she already expected to fail. Oh, this is bad, she muttered. No clinician NPI. No evaluator signature. Risk can't legally substitute medical judgment. She slapped the pages down. This isn't a mistake. It's strategy. Lila exhaled shakily. Whitaker glanced at her. This isn't your shame. I made a bad call, Lila whispered. He made it policy. Whitaker nodded once, the closest she came to compassion. Good. On your piece. Let me handle his. She bagged the evidence in labeled sleeves. I'll file the public disclosure request at 7:05 sharp. If your clerk's office timestamps it, he can't bury it without a judge noticing. We left with fewer pages, but more traction. 2 more witnesses. We stopped at a church along the river. The donation box was brass, worn smooth by decades of hands. I slid one sealed envelope through. The slot clapped shut like a gavel. Then the bus station. Noah slipped a second copy into locker 14B, turned the dial 3 times. Click, 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 seal. Proof lives in there now, he said. And nowhere he can stage, I added. It was past 7 when we returned to the car. The sky had lightened to the dull color of a bruise. Noah started the engine. Lila leaned her head against the window, eyes glassy, breath fogging the glass. Dad, Noah said quietly, what happens if we're too late? If we don't anchor this by noon, I said, he'll premiere his cut at your wedding. Lila covered her mouth. Noah tightened his grip on the steering wheel, so tight his knuckles paled. You don't ruin me, he told her. But his fingers didn't loosen. He didn't believe himself yet. We pulled into our lot. The building looked ordinary. That was the worst part. Monsters don't need theatrics, just access. We climbed the stairs. Halfway up, Noah froze. A single sheet of paper lay at our door. Placed, not dropped. Too straight. Too centered. I picked it up. The letters weren't just printed. They were indented, pressed with a ruler's edge. No incidents today. Lila inhaled sharply, like the air suddenly had teeth. We entered the apartment. Everything was where we left it. The suit, the dress, the veil. The domestic calm of objects waiting for a ceremony that reality no longer supported. Noah shut the door softly. Do you still want to get married today? He asked her. Silence stretched taut. I want to stand with you, she whispered. But not on a stage he built. Noah nodded, eyes shining with fear and determination. A sound came from the stairwell. Not footsteps. Not walking. Keys. A single chime. Then silence. Then another step. Slow. Measured. Soft-soled. Lila backed up until she hit the wall. Noah moved in front of her. I stepped forward. The footsteps climbed. A shadow spread along the hallway wall before the man appeared. Grant Sable. Crisp jacket. Neutral face. Keys hanging still at his side, like they'd already marked the moment. He looked at the three of us as if taking attendance. His voice was calm. Effortless. Time to finish the record. And somewhere deep in the building, a copier started. 3 sheets. A pause. 3 more. The copier's distant rhythm pulsed through the stairwell like something mechanical trying to breathe. 3 sheets. A pause. 3 more. Sable stood on the landing, half lit by the dull morning leaking through the window, calm as if he'd rehearsed this moment. Noah stepped in front of Lila, shoulders drawn tight. What do you want? He said. Sable studied him with a faint, analytical tilt of the head. The same thing I wanted at the beginning. Accuracy. He took a single step forward. I blocked him. You don't get to define accuracy, I said. His eyes flicked toward me, unreadable. I curate outcomes. That's all. He didn't need to say more. The threat was already in the air. He looked past me toward Lila. You should have stayed aligned. Noah bristled. Say her name. Sable let out a quiet breath, almost bored. Names imply equivalence. That isn't relevant here. Noah's hands shook, but he didn't step back. I know what you did, Noah said. To her. To the record. You know what I showed you, Sable corrected. That's different. He stepped back, not yielding, just adjusting, like a chess player making room for the next piece. The wedding begins in 7 hours, he said calmly. The director prefers harmonious ceremonies. The word hung in the hallway. Lila whispered, What director? But Sable was already turning away. Halfway down the stairs, he paused. If a witness collapses, he said lightly, the copies won't matter. Lila's breath hitched. Noah nearly lunged after him, but I caught his arm. Let him go, I murmured. Sable disappeared into the dimness below, leaving the air wrong behind him. Lila wrapped her arms around herself. He's not trying to stop us. He's organizing us. He's staging you, I said. That's what he's always done. The director, she whispered again. I thought it was him, but it wasn't a person. It was the system he curated. Her voice broke, softer and more honest than it had ever been. He didn't ruin my career. He ruined who I thought I was. Noah stepped closer, jaw trembling. We're not letting him keep doing that. The copier thumped again. 3 sheets. A pause. 3 more. The building sounding like it was marking time for him. We move, I said. We slipped out the side door into the brittle morning air. The sun hadn't risen, but the deadline had. 6 hours left. And Sable moved like a man who already knew the ending. When we reached the lot, we saw Whitaker, our reporter, standing beside her car. and someone else was speaking to her. A man in a gray coat, clipboard in hand. He turned as we approached. His badge glinted, too clean, too generic, the kind of laminate you print when you want authority without credentials. Whitaker looked rattled. He says your filings are fabricated. Are they? The clipboard man asked. His voice was soft, symmetrical, off somehow. That's enough, I said. He looked at me the way a surveillance camera looks, without judgment, without interest, just recording. Then he turned back to Whitaker. We're done here. He walked away with no rush and no fear. His neutrality was the threat. Whitaker's breath came sharp. Was that hospital legal? State compliance? No, I said. Someone he sent. She swallowed. He already knew exactly what I had. He always knows, Lila whispered, then caught herself. No, I'm done saying that. Whitaker squared her shoulders. Then let me give him something he doesn't know. Morning news cycle. He can't intercept all of it. She got in her car and sped off toward the station. The lot felt colder without her. Noah hugged himself briefly. That won't stop him. It will force him to improvise, I said. He hates improvising. We headed back toward our apartment building. Lila's steps were unsteady. Noah kept close to her, hands flexing nervously. He's going to escalate now, she whispered. He always escalates when the story slips. Then we stay ahead, I said. Inside, the stairwell smelled like dust and cold metal. A single fluorescent light hummed overhead. He'll come to the wedding, Noah said quietly. He'll do more than come, I said. He'll premiere his cut. Lila flinched. We reached our landing and stopped. A sheet of paper lay perfectly aligned against our door, edges square, centered like a ritual. The letters weren't printed. They were pressed into the page as though carved. No incidents today. Lila's hand flew to her mouth. Noah's breath stuttered. He was here. Recently, I said, and confidently. In the apartment, everything was where we left it. The dress, the suit, the small objects of a day meant to celebrate love rather than survive manipulation. Noah touched the veil, fingers shaking again, but still refusing to pull back. Are we still doing this? He asked softly. Lila closed her eyes. I want to marry you. I just don't want him writing the ceremony. Noah nodded. We take back the script, I said, and we do it where he least expects. Where? Noah asked. Westbridge Hall, I said. He stared. The wedding venue? He believes he's staged your entrance. That's how we go off script. The building settled with a low creak. Then, a sound in the stairwell. Keys. One chime. Then silence. Footsteps climbed, slow and deliberate. Sable appeared at the top of the stairs, expression composed, jacket dusted with dawn light. He looked at the three of us as if he'd been waiting for the cue. His voice was quiet. Time to finish the record. Somewhere deep in the building, the copier started again. 3 sheets. A pause. 3 more. We weren't walking toward a wedding anymore. We were walking into the edit suite. The copier somewhere deep in the building kept grinding out its mechanical heartbeat. 3 sheets. A pause. 3 more. As if the walls themselves were counting down to something inevitable. Sable stood at the top of the stairs, morning light sharpening the edges of his face, keys hanging still beside him. He didn't move closer. He didn't need to. His stillness was its own advance. Noah stepped instinctively in front of Lila. His hands trembled, but he didn't step back. His fear lived in his body. His decision lived in his stance. What now? I asked quietly. Sable's gaze ran over the three of us like a clinical audit. Now, he said, we correct the narrative. He said it calmly, but something inside the words scraped. He shifted his attention to Lila. You should have stayed aligned. Lila flinched, then straightened. Say what you really mean. He blinked once, slow. You destabilized the sequence. Noah's breath caught. She's a person, not a sequence. Sable tilted his head. Sequences define outcomes. People merely follow them. His tone was almost bored, which made it even worse. He stepped down 1 stair. Just 1. Enough to press the air tighter. Bring her, he said. The wedding still needs continuity. No, Noah said, voice cracking. You don't get to own this day. Sable studied him, an evaluator assessing a variable, not a human. You misunderstand, he said. The ceremony is an event. Events require structure. Without structure. Stop, Lila said sharply. That one word froze him for a beat. Stop talking like I'm a file, she said. Stop pretending you didn't know exactly what you were doing. Sable's eyes flickered, annoyance, maybe. Or recognition. You think I fear exposure? He asked softly. I curate systems. Systems survive noise. Your noise, Lila whispered. His jaw twitched. A small, sharp crack in the porcelain mask. Then came the knock. 3 hard raps on the lobby door below. 2 more. Urgent. Sable's head turned, minimal but alert. Victor, a voice called up. Victor, are you up there? Whitaker. Sable stiffened. No, he said. You will not open that. I started toward the stairs anyway. Victor. Whitaker's voice climbed. They aired it. Sable's eyes narrowed. Whitaker barreled up the steps 2 at a time, breathless, hair wild. It's out, she said. The segment. The missing credentials. The risk signatures. The cut in tomorrow.mov. It's on air. Lila's knees nearly gave out. Noah grabbed her arm. Sable's voice was velvet and venom. Impossible. Whitaker shook her head. I've been tracking you longer than you think. A year, actually. All I needed was confirmation and a time-stamped inconsistency. He handed me both. Sable's nostrils flared. Just slightly. Enough to show fury in a man who never showed anything. It won't matter, he said. Broadcast without context is noise. It's evidence, Whitaker countered. Evidence, he murmured, is a matter of perspective. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't move. He didn't threaten. But the hall darkened by a shade anyway. Whitaker stepped closer. The state board already called my editor. They're reviewing his cases. His evaluations. His signatures. Temporary, Sable said. They won't sever a system because one component misaligned. Something cold slid through my chest. He was right. Mostly. Lila swallowed. You'll still be there. After everything. Of course, he said. I was never the system. I was its custodian. He raised his eyes to us, patient and gleaming. You dismantled the narrative, not the institution. See which version survives. There it was, the threat he'd been holding in reserve. Not loud. Not violent. Just true in a way that cut deeper than any weapon. He took one step down the stairs. Then another. No one moved to stop him. Halfway down, he paused again. You searched for the director, he said. But there was never a director. The policy was the director. Compliance. Metrics. Outcomes. I merely ensured the script was followed. He descended the rest of the way with the calm of a man exiting a meeting early, not losing one. At the bottom, he looked up at us one last time. Enjoy your morning, he said. I suspect the afternoon will be educational. Then he left. No slam of the door. No dramatic exit. Just absence, sharp and cold. The silence he left behind lived. Whitaker wiped a hand across her forehead. I need coffee. And the 3 of you need a lawyer. Preferably before noon. Noah let out a strangled laugh. Half shock, half exhaustion. Lila lowered herself to the floor, shaking. Not collapsing. Shaking like someone finally unburdened. What do we do now? Noah whispered. Whitaker answered first. You could get married. Lila let out a breath that sounded like a sob, and a laugh fused together. I don't want him in the room. He won't be, I said. How do you know? Noah asked. Because we took his cut away, I said. He lost his ending. Lila covered her face. But everything feels broken. Whitaker crouched beside her. Broken doesn't mean untrue. Sometimes broken is the only honest thing. Lila lowered her hands. I don't know if I can walk down an aisle today. Noah knelt with her. He swallowed hard, grief and relief fighting in his eyes. If you want to wait, he said quietly, we wait. Tomorrow. Next week. 6 months. It doesn't change anything for me. She looked at him with a tenderness that hurt to watch. Tomorrow, she whispered. Noah nodded, eyes glossing. Tomorrow. Whitaker pushed to her feet. The venue's yours. Or don't use it. Let it sit empty. Sometimes empty space is the cleanest kind. I helped Lila up. Her legs were weak, but holding. She wasn't the trembling figure from the bathroom anymore. She wasn't healed. But she wasn't afraid of the truth anymore either. We stepped outside. The sun finally broke the horizon, turning frost on the pavement into glittering shards of gold. The town felt like it was waking up with us. Not kindly, but honestly. Sable wasn't gone. He wasn't defeated. He wasn't done. But he wasn't invisible anymore. And for men like him, visibility was a wound. Lila took Noah's hand. Their fingers intertwined slowly, like they were relearning the shape of it. It's not over, she said softly. No, I agreed. But it's yours now. We stood there for a moment, letting the morning settle around us. Then, from somewhere far off, a siren wailed, ordinary, probably. But none of us pretended it was harmless. The morning felt lighter, Lila whispered. But not safe. No, I said. Never safe. But true. The copier inside the building clicked once more. 3 faint sheets, a pause, then nothing. A final echo of a system adjusting to its new story. We turned toward the car. Toward tomorrow. Toward the version we would write. Not perfect. Not clean. But ours.